Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brent Glass, the co-founder and senior advisor for the National History Academy, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our program this afternoon, a live Q&A with Dave Gutierrez, author of Patriots from the Barrio. The National History Academy has been operating since 2017 with residential programs and virtual programs for high school students who are interested in American history, with a special emphasis on the power of place and the importance of preserving our and knowing our history through historic sites, but also in meeting and engaging with outstanding practitioners of public history. And I'm delighted that Dave Gutierrez is going to join us this afternoon. He is a professional researcher, historical presenter, writer, and author of the book Patriots from the Barrio, the true story of Company E, 101st Infantry, the only Mexican-American Army unit in World War II. His articles have appeared in publications including American Legion and War History Online, recognized by both the Texas Military Forces Museum in Austin and the National World War II Museum in New Orleans for his groundbreaking work on the Company E 141st Infantry. He also specializes in genealogical research, Mexican-American history, and World War II studies. He is the current president of the Nuevo Mundo Historical and Genealogical Society of Silicon Valley. So I'm delighted, Dave, to welcome you to the program this afternoon. Look forward to your remarks.
Thank you. I'll just go ahead and get this shared screen up. Hopefully everyone can see my screen here. Again, my name is Dave Gutierrez. I am the writer and the author of the book Patriots from the Barrio. It is the true story of Company E in the 141st Infantry. It was the only all Mexican-American U.S. Army unit in World War II. I originally self-published the book in 2014, and in 2018, West Home Publishing released a new edition to my book. And I first originally set out to write my cousin Ramon's story. Ramon, I had heard from as a child. I had always heard his World War II heroics, and always thought his story was fascinating. He had been captured twice by the German army, escaped both times, making it back across Allied lines. He would become one of only a few Americans to be decorated for valor on the battlefield by the Soviet Union during World War II. So that's why I started to research his story and try to put their story together. And then through research, I realized somehow this thing paused. Sorry about that. So are we able to see the screen? Hopefully somebody can get in here.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it, Dave.
It's not actually showing the slide though. At least I don't see it. Okay. So the unit was a Texas National Guard unit out of El Paso, and I learned through research that they had been actually the only Mexican-American U.S. Army unit in World War II. So that's a little bit about my book and how I became a writer and a researcher and through military history. And I basically became a writer to be able to tell the story of Company E in the 141st. In 2017, Hollywood actor-producer Wilmer Valderrama obtained the film rights to my book. And just last year, in September of 2020, we signed a deal with CBS TV Studios, who now has the rights to the book Patriots from the Barrio. And CBS TV Studios is looking to produce a television series based on the true story. Today, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Hispanics and the Medal of Honor. We start off with Joseph H. De Castro. Joseph De Castro was born in November of 1844. He was only 16 years old when he enlisted as part of the Massachusetts Infantry Volunteers. He was assigned to I Company in the 19th Infantry. And during the Battle of Gettysburg, he was actually the flag bearer for the unit. So he was carrying the Massachusetts state colors during the battle. Now, being a flag bearer is not a very popular part of the infantry. You're out there carrying the flags, you're exposed to the enemy, and basically makes you a huge target. The I Company had already lost quite a few flag bearers during their fights during the Civil War, and Joseph De Castro is now the flag bearer in Gettysburg. Joseph confronted the Confederate flag bearer and got into a fight with the actual flag bearer of the Confederacy, and ended up winning that battle and took the flag and returned it back to the general. So he's got his flag and the Confederate flag along with him during the Battle of Gettysburg. He would be awarded the Medal of Honor and becoming the first Hispanic to be awarded the Medal of Honor during the Civil War. During World War I, David Barclay Cantu had been serving with Company A in the 356. I'm having to move my slides back and forth here, sorry. David was born in Laredo, Texas, had again served with the 356th, the 89th Division, and had volunteered to cross the Meuse River in France in order to gain intelligence of enemy fortifications on the other side of the river. He and another soldier swam across, and on the way back, after gathering that information on enemy positions, he actually cramped up and actually drowned. But his bravery during this mission really caught the attention of General Pershing, and eventually David Barclay Cantu, again from Laredo, Texas, had been awarded the Medal of Honor. Unfortunately, my screen keeps pausing. Here we go. In World War II, Joseph Martinez from Taos, New Mexico, he had been born in Taos, New Mexico, but raised actually in Colorado. Joseph Martinez was serving with the 7th Infantry Division, U.S. Army 7th Infantry Division. Now, in 1942, the Japanese had actually landed on American territory in Alaska, on the islands of Attu. So we had Japanese forces actually on American soil, on American territory. The Seventh Army was dispatched in there to try to dispatch the Japanese forces that were still on the island of Attu. And during the fight there, Joseph Martinez had, along with his members of the 7th Infantry Division, had went ahead and tried to dispose of Japanese machine guns nests. And Joseph was able to knock out a few of those. And even though his platoon was pinned down, he continued to move forward to try to take out even more machine gun nests when he was tragically killed. Joseph Martinez becomes the first Hispanic American to be awarded the Medal of Honor during World War II while defending American soil. Silvestre Herrera had served with the 36th Infantry Division. Silvestre had been born in Chihuahua, Mexico. Now, his story is a little different. Silvestre was being raised by someone he thought was his father the whole time. And when he was drafted into the Army, his father actually confessed, or it was his uncle actually confessed to him that he was actually had been born in Mexico and thus not having to go to the draft. And Silvestre finds out that the man he thought was his father is actually his uncle. His parents had died from the influenza in Mexico when he was just 1 year old. So his uncle had brought him to the United States, and they were living in Arizona when he was drafted. So Silvestre still, he understands that he's a Mexican citizen, a Mexican national. He still went, and even though, you know, he was drafted, he's a Mexican national, he still went ahead and served his country. And they were in France. The 36th Infantry Division was moving in France. And again, they were pinned down by, his company was pinned down by machine guns. Silvestre was able to take out a few of those machine gun nests with a hand grenade and actually captured 8 German soldiers. Well, this was early in the day, and the unit continued to move forward, and they were pinned down yet again in France by heavy machine gun fire. And as Silvestre was charging the machine gun nest, he stepped on a mine and wounded in both legs. He continued to fire at the enemy, even though from a prone position, to silence the machine gun, and really helped his platoon to continue to move forward. For that, Silvestre would be awarded the Medal of Honor. Cleto Rodriguez was born in San Marcos, Texas, serving with the 37th Infantry Division, and they were serving in Manila during World War II. And Cleto's unit would be trying to take on a railroad station. They were trying to defend a railroad station. And during that time, Cleto and another man, so the two men were caught out in the open while they were trying to get to the railroad station. And a firefight ensued with heavy Japanese forces, and they were pinned down for a few hours. But during that fight, Cleto and his buddy would later be killed from wounds during the fight. But they were both credited with killing 80 enemy soldiers during that firefight. and Gleto would later be awarded the Medal of Honor. Now, Manuel Mendoza had been born in Arizona and was fighting with the 88th Infantry Division in Italy in 1944. Now, his heroics during the battle in Italy in 1944, again, he was fighting with the 88th Infantry Division, and he would actually be awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for fighting in Italy. And it wouldn't be until 2000. Now, in 2002, President George Bush, his administration, went ahead and asked the Defense Authorization Act to take a look at those of Jewish and Hispanic Americans of descent, to look to see if there was anything in the records that showed that maybe these men were not allowed to have the Medal of Honor due to prejudice. So the Defense Authorization Act in 2002 really went back and looked at a lot of those records. And one of the ones they looked at was Manuel Mendoza's record. And in 2014, it was President Obama who would finally award Manuel Mendoza the Medal of Honor. Now, during World War II, there was about 13 Hispanic Americans that were given or awarded the Medal of Honor. And it was due to the Defense Authorization Act of 2002 later on that, and Ed could, hopefully Ed can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was 4 Hispanic Americans that would be awarded the Medal of Honor in addition to those 13 that were awarded the Medal of Honor during World War II. The Korean War. Eduardo C. Gomez was one of 15 Hispanics to be awarded the Medal of Honor. Now, Eduardo was born in Los Angeles and was serving with the 1st Cavalry Division. And his, while serving with the 1st Cavalry during the Korean War, his company was surrounded by a large force, and they were looking to defend their position when an enemy tank was in the area. The enemy tank was firing at pretty much their command post, and Eduardo sees that, you know, this tank is going to be a problem if they don't take care of it. On his own, Eduardo goes and gets close enough to the tank where he climbs on top and throws a hand grenade into the he gets the turret open and silences it with a hand grenade. Again, Eduardo is one of 15 Hispanics to be awarded the Medal of Honor during the Korean War. Now, during the Vietnam War, 22 Hispanics would be awarded the Medal of Honor. And one in particular that I'll go over is Raul Roy Benavides, who was from Texas. Roy had actually served in the Korean War. So prior to his service with Special Forces in Vietnam. So he had served with the Texas National Guard during the Korean War, and then transferred over to the Army Special Forces, and was training and was assigned to the Army Special Forces. And in 1968, while serving in Vietnam, Roy had overheard radio calls. He had just come back from a mission and was back at the base, and he hears that, you know, in the radio that there's this huge firefight going on, and he jumps into the helicopter, and he didn't even, he jumps into the helicopter to go back where they were looking to reinforce the unit that had been trapped. And he goes in there and he's not even carrying a rifle. The only thing he had with him at the time was a knife. So the chopper ends up landing close to the area. And during the ensuing firefight, which lasted about 6 hours, Roy Benavides was wounded so badly and received over 30 wounds during this firefight in Vietnam. He was wounded so badly that they thought that Roy Benavides had been killed. And when they realized he was still alive, he would be awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. Now, there were many people who thought that Roy Benavides' actions that day merited the Medal of Honor. The Army at the time wanted to make sure that there was live interviews with someone that could corroborate all of the stories during this. So they kept Roy Benavides for a while with the Distinguished Service Cross, until finally the person that was the radio man during that mission was found living, like he was living in Australia, and realized through newspaper accounts that Roy Benavides, they were looking to promote his Distinguished Service Cross to the Medal of Honor. Well, he got a hold of Roy, and they finally had a living person who was able to corroborate everything that Roy Benavides did. And it was President Ronald Reagan that awarded him the Medal of Honor. Now, we talked a little bit about my cousin Ramon, who had served in World War II. He's the one that we talked about in my book, Patriots from the Barrio. In 1985, in Ramon's hometown of Del Rio, Texas, he was being recognized by the local GI Forum. And also being honored that day was Roy Benavides, who had just been awarded the Medal of Honor by Ronald Reagan. So these two men, the American GI Forum in Del Rio, Texas, was honoring both of these men. And during this presentation, Roy Benavides is sitting there right next to my cousin Ramon, and he hears Ramon is standing up because they are reading his Silver Star citation, where he knocks out an enemy machine gun during the Battle of Salerno during World War II. And when Ramon comes back to sit down next to Roy, Roy stands up and salutes my cousin Ramon after hearing the Silver Star citation that was read out loud. I'm told that there was not a dry eye in the house during this time when both of these men were honored that day. I wanted to, I'll go ahead and stop sharing here. So again, I wanted to share with you a little bit about the history of Hispanic Americans. And I wanted to thank the National History Academy, the National Medal of Honor Museum for recognizing Hispanic Americans during Hispanic Heritage Month. We are starting to see more and more of this as organizations such as this actually take the time to recognize Hispanic Americans. Again, for a while there, Hispanic Americans have always felt like we're always left out of certain things. But I wanted to, again, thank you so much to the National History Academy for actually taking the time to recognize Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. And I know we've got some questions for you, and we're going to bring on Ben Kellerhouse, who's one of our former students. He was a high school student for in National History Academy in the summer of 2018, and he's worked as a teaching assistant for us since, and he's helping us during the school year. He's a junior at the University of Arizona, so I will turn it over to Ben.
Hey, so yeah, we got some questions from Facebook. Let's see. Jesus asks, what are the obstacles of naming a military base after some of our Medal of Honor recipients?
Ben, can you repeat that question?
Yeah. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you now.
All right, sorry. What are the obstacles of naming a military base after some of our military recipients, Medal of Honor recipients, I think it's meant.
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, I'd have to look into that myself. I would think that they would be at the top of the list, you know, for Medal of Honor recipients. I know that there's bases and things named after generals and things of that nature, but you would think that you know, we have Medal of Honor recipients that I know that there's ships named after them. Some of them have bases named after them. I spent some time in the Marine Corps, and I remember seeing several camps named after different Marines and so forth.
Yeah. I think we had some folks wondering what the research process for this was like. You sort of introduced how you came to write the book, but was the research harder than you expected, or what was that process like?
Well, for the book, it took me 5 years to write Patriots from the Body. And for me, I became a writer because I wanted to tell that story. I wanted to tell my cousin's story, who had been, you know, he'd been captured twice by the German army. You know, he's been one of a few Americans to be decorated for valor on the battlefield by the Soviet Union. And I was always curious, how come no one outside the family ever really talked about this? And I started doing I read basically everything about the 36th Infantry Division during World War II. But really, genealogy research was really my foundation for writing the book. In a span of 5 years, I connected with over 60 different families of the men that served with my cousin during World War II. And it was all due to genealogy research. And when you connect with these families, you really get an idea of the person that you're trying to write about. They have intimate details about these people. They had all the, you know, photos and military records. So after, you know, getting things like the after action reports of 36th Infantry Division, and you piece that together with all these personal stories, that really helped me to piece together the book.
Wow.
To jump in again, Ben, I'd like to, I see that Ed Lingle has joined us, and Ed is the chief historian at the Medal of Honor Museum, and the museum is co-sponsoring this event with us. Ed has been a part of National History Academy also from 2018, speaking with our students, some of his varied historical research on George Washington and World War I. In addition to what he's done with the National World War II Museum, the Medal of Honor Museum. So I'd love to bring you into the conversation, Ed, and you maybe you know, also if you've got some questions of Dave to include you. So Ed, do you have some thoughts?
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you so much for the shout out. I joined a couple of minutes late because I was having a little trouble with the Zoom link. So that's just the way it is in this world of technology. But thank you, Bill, for all the great work the National History Academy does. It's been a delight to work with you over the last few years. And Dave, thank you for a fantastic presentation. It's been wonderful to work with you too. Also, since I was at the World War II Museum and brought you in for some events there, and now to have you here as well. You speak with such knowledge, you're so articulate, but you're also passionate about this. I have one comment and then one thing I'd like to ask you, Dave, to elaborate on a little bit. The comment about the naming of the military bases really is that it's such a process. It takes so long to get any kind of a name changed for any reason when you're dealing with the military bureaucracy, honestly, from any angle. But it also takes advocacy. And certain Medal of Honor recipients, deservedly so, have received a lot of attention because they've had very prominent advocates. And I think some others who maybe deserved a little bit more attention than they've received, and that's certainly true for many of our Hispanic Medal of Honor recipients, perhaps have not received the kind of advocacy that they deserve. I mean, much of what the kind of advocacy certain recipients get comes from their families. And the families, I think, are the families of recipients that I've met. I mean, the recipients themselves are just such wonderful people, but their families are so aware of and passionate about the legacy of their family members. And that kind of segues what I wanted to ask you, Dave, to elaborate on a little bit. In your book about the 141st, I know that the connections with the individual family members have been so important to you, and you have spoken about how meaningful it is for them to see that their ancestors or family members are now being honored in the work that you've done. Have you encountered, or can you speak more about that? And perhaps have you met any family members of Hispanic Medal of Honor recipients that you could speak about? What does it mean for the families?
Yeah, that's it. That's a great question, Ed. Thank you. When I started to connect with these families, we actually became, it's kind of like a company E reunion. All of these families, I now am connected with these families, that we get to continue to honor a group of men that forged such a tight-knit group over 70 years ago in World War II. And here we get to continue that. When I first wrote the book and I needed to let people know that the book is out there, I went to El Paso, Texas. That was the first place I went to because this unit was a Texas National Guard unit out of El Paso. Many of the men's families were still in El Paso. And we had our first book signing at John Shapin High School. The school was named after the commanding officer of Company E in the 141st. And it was such a very cool thing to be able to be in that high school under the names of all of the men that served under Captain John Shapin there. And yeah, we get to continue a bond that was forged over 70 years ago by some very heroic men who served in a very unique and historical U.S. Army unit in World War II.
Okay, so with that, I guess we'll get back to more questions and input. We have one question about, you mentioned that some didn't receive the Medal of Honor until later, after some time. So how did the requirements for the Medal of Honor change in that time span?
Well, I think I talked a little bit about the 2002 Defense Authorization Act. that came about where they wanted to see, they felt that they wanted to take a look at the records of Jewish Americans and Hispanic Americans that probably deserved the Medal of Honor, but didn't at the time. And maybe Ed can talk a little bit more about this in detail. But it's my understanding that propelled them to take another look at it.
Yeah. Ed, if you want to jump in on any of that, go ahead.
I'm going to volunteer my colleague who is also in on this call, Mr. Corey Ackerman, who is our Director of Research at the National Medal of Honor Museum, and who has also done some research on the subject. Corey, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, it's not so much the standards have changed. They've more or less stayed the same since the 60s, right? It's eyewitness accounts. It's that the Army periodically goes through and checks, and we're actually about to undergo 2 different reviews right now to make sure that discrimination didn't affect the awarding of valor medals. And historically, you see drop-offs, right? Especially in the awardings of Black and Hispanic Americans. Less so with Hispanic Americans, much more so with African Americans, Black Americans, but it happens, right? And Jewish Americans as well. And so sometimes Congress orders it. Sometimes the Army or the Navy does their own internal review if they can succumb to pressure. And so, there are people who lobby Congress or the DoD, the Department of Defense, to instigate these reviews. So the 2 reviews that are going on right now, one is to double check to make sure that African Americans, Black Americans were properly awarded the Medal of Honor during World War I. And that was a review ordered by Congress in the National Defense Authorization Act 2 years ago. And then Secretary Austin also ordered a review of valor medals from World War II on to double check to make sure none were missed, right? So that's one that originated with the executive. And then there's a review that originated with the Congress. And so these things happen all the time. And it depends on evidence that's gathered and whether or not it's a political process, whether or not you can convince Congress or the executive that a review has to happen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
I'm sorry. And Ed talked about advocacy, how important it was to that, to having people keep their name out there. I think it's also important that, as Hispanics, and this is something we have to get better at, we have to get better at recording and documenting our own history. I think my book itself is an example of that. I mean, it took 70 years for the true story of an all Mexican American U.S. Army unit to come to light. In my opinion, this book should have been written 50 years ago. But I think we have to continue to record and document our own history.
That actually, our next question was sort of in line with that, because earlier, Dave, you mentioned that Hispanics have been left out of certain discussions or certain things. How do you judge, the question is, how do you judge the success of Hispanic Heritage Month, the success of maybe a recent new emphasis on telling these stories?
Well, I think like today's discussion is huge for that. We didn't have this a few years ago. So for me, this is groundbreaking. We're breaking new ground here because a few years ago we did not have this, and even during National Hispanic Heritage Month. So this is the kind of thing that we need. We need to keep it out in front of people and letting them know that yes, Hispanics served in all of our armed forces, and we can go all the way back to the Civil War. You know, 3 Hispanics were awarded the Medal of Honor during the Civil War. Yet people, very few know that.
Right. And maybe that's happening wholesale in a few different areas of history. So let's see, another Facebook question. This one is rather specific, to touch on the base thing again. But someone asked, some bases are still named after Confederates. Should they be renamed for Latino heroes?
I would say they need to look at every ethnicity, not just Latinos. They need to look at everything in a broad.
Right. Let's see. We have someone getting part of their question in. So, okay, based on that last question, how have you had to deal with promoting this book, writing this book, everything you're doing as the author, with the politics getting into history as they have recently? As much as we enjoy the widening of the lens, there's also a lot of blowback. And have you had to deal with any of that?
Not really blowback. And it has gotten very political. You know, especially within the last few years. And I tell people liberal Democrats and conservative Republicans both buy books. I am not gonna say this way or that way. So for me, promoting this story is foremost. I thought that Company E in the 141st story should be taught in every classroom in America. I did not learn this in school. I was looking to tell my cousin Ramon's story. When through research, I found out that there was an all Mexican American U.S. Army unit. And, you know, at first I thought I knew everything about World War II. And then I realized this piece that opened up everything. And it really shifted the focus of telling just my cousin's story to the entire unit story. But we are making headway. We have a high school in Granada Hills, California, that became the first school in the nation to use Patriots from the Barrio as part of their World War II lessons. And I'll have to thank my good friend Scott Petrie, who teaches history at John F. Kennedy High School out there. And since then, other schools have used it. So we're getting out there slowly. But as far as the political thing, I try to stay in the middle. And like I said, Republicans, Democrats, both buy books.
If I can jump in here too, Dave, I mean, we at the National Medal of Honor Museum are absolutely determined to recognize our Hispanic Medal of Honor recipients, and this program is a big part of that. And first of all, it's because it's the right thing to do, but second, I think we need to keep in mind the many young people out there today of Hispanic descent or who identify culturally with the Hispanic heritage and culture, and they need people to inspire them to the values and character principles that we all need to share, that we all need to reach toward. You know, they're examples of courage, of heroism, of dedication, patriotism, everything else. Our goal is so much, as it is with you, Dave, and your work, to hold these up as a shining example to young people today. And we think they can provide points of connection to identify them more closely with our country and what our country represents, and to bring us all together. So it really should stand above politics. Politics should have nothing to do with it at all.
I agree.
So speaking of getting the story out there, we have a question. What, if you know any more about the adaptation for TV, and if they're including you in input, since it is your book?
Well, part of the deal that I did sign was that I would be the lead consultant on the film. I'm going to be sitting down with the writers as we write out the pilot episode and you know the several other episodes. Wilmer and CBS, I know, have some announcements coming here in the near future. I can't get into the details here about it because, you know, Hollywood likes to send out their announcements on their timeline. But I'm very happy with what CBS TV Studios and Wilmer Valderrama's production company have done this far. And I can't wait to really just roll up my sleeves and get to work, because I get another platform to be able to tell this story, and so that others can learn. Others that just watch movies and don't read books can learn of the only all Mexican American U.S. Army unit in World War II.
Right, right. So we might be running short on time, but we still have some questions like, which of these stories has had the most impact on you personally?
On me personally, for whatever reason, Joseph Martinez's story. Here's a guy born in New Mexico, raised in Colorado, went and served with the 7th Infantry Division, and really was killed in action. Basically, he gave his life for the very freedoms that we enjoy today. Those are the people that really resonate with me. I mean, this guy, again, he gave his life, and he was defending American soil. That is the unique piece to Joseph Martinez's story. He was defending and trying to expel Japanese forces from American soil.
Well, thank you so much, Dave. This has been a tremendous presentation, and it's such an important story, and a story that I certainly didn't know about. And as we wrap up, I'd like to, Ed, I'd hope to have you say a few words at the beginning about what's happening at the Medal of Honor Museum, and some of your education programs that you're implementing right now, and your plans for the future as you're readying to open up the new museum in Texas.
Thanks so much, Bill. The National Medal of Honor Museum is going to be constructed in Arlington, Texas, with, we hope, a groundbreaking to take place early next year, and then a grand opening in 2024. The National Medal of Honor Museum, everybody, we tell them about it, they always say, why hasn't this been built already? And it's a great question, because I think it's so important. Our focus in this museum is going to be less on the conflicts and the battles, although we will certainly cover those, but more on the human stories and the biographies of these over 3,500 people who have served our country with such dedication and bravery, and to try to tease out their qualities of humanity, their values, their character principles, and everything that made them so special as human beings, and to find ways to connect them with people today, especially young people today, and to give them some inspiration, to show young people how you can also be great for your country, for your community, for your family. You can also serve, you can also follow in the same path, that these recipients are people who we can reach individually in a very powerful way, and make our country more unified and more demonstrative of all these great character qualities. So it's going to be a wonderful museum, and it's through educational programs like this. Our first partner and primary partner in our educational programming has been the National History Academy. And the National History Academy is just a fantastic partner. You do such great work in reaching out to young people all over the country. And I'm very proud to be working with you on these programs.
Well, thank you so much, Ed. It's great to work with you, and you have been a partner from the beginning, and we look forward to many more programs in the months ahead. And Dave, thank you so much. It's an inspiring story, and again, one that has not been told, and we're very proud to provide a platform for you to tell these stories. Tomorrow we'll be going to San Javier del Bac in Tucson, Arizona at 4 o'clock. And Thursday we'll be going to the Tenement Museum in New York for a tour. So I hope that that our viewers will join us for both tomorrow, Thursday, and in the next 2.5 weeks as we continue our programming built around National Hispanic Heritage Month. So thank you all and have a pleasant afternoon.
Thank you.